a bit embarrassing when somebody, wants to get to know you, but there's this sort of barrier, or like they might not know that much about your culture, and as they try to get to know you, they ask some really weird questions.
Where in Africa did you say Bangalore was? Or something like Bangalore? Where's that?
Another thing is, some people here think Africa is like one country, one small country, whatever. And you say, I'm from Kenya, and it's like, wow, yeah, I have this friend from Nigeria, and his name is blah 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 or something something. It's like, wow, have you met him?
You'd probably find me explaining to people that Bangalore was not in Africa, but it was actually in India, and that, well, India and Africa are quite similar, and they can sometimes get confused. Both of them had elephants, you see.
Yeah, so somebody came up to me and was like, so do they wear clothes where you come from? And I was like,
Americans are, for the most part, curious, friendly, but sadly ignorant. And I understand where this is coming from, because there's really no need to, a lot of them feel there's really no need to know about the rest of the world, simply because America has repositioned itself in so many multiple locations around the world in terms of its cultural influence. But I still find it somewhat disappointing that Americans, extremely self-absorbed, their knowledge of world issues is sadly deficient in many ways. They tend to buy a lot into the media and how the media portrays other countries, where never actually bothering to experience these other places from the point of view of someone within the culture.
You want them to know what it's all about, and you really don't want to, you want to stop any stereotypes and things like that, and that's only natural. But the hardest thing I found out to do is the difference between sharing and the difference between lecturing.
How much exactly should you volunteer to share with others? Because in many cases, they know absolutely nothing about where you've come from. So if you're to start telling them about who you are and where you've come from, they'll either be really bored.
Do they really want to know about the place, or they're just being nice?
If it is how much they want to know, oh, I could go telling you all sorts of stories.
You can make a presentation for them if you really need to.
Globalization necessitates a sympathetic, informed understanding of other cultures, which I think is one of the advantages international students have when coming to American institutions of higher learning, because it is almost imperative for them, to get to know, to adjust to another culture, to absorb its mores, to interact with fellow international students. And I think international students therefore bring a far more open, less uninformed view, and that's helpful.
When I came here, I realized that I'm representing a culture to people.
I realized how Polish I am when I left Poland.
Ambassador for your country, your continent, or your culture.
You know that you added to the diversity of the college. That's one of the buzzwords in college brochures everywhere. And so you're very aware that whenever you come to a place where there aren't many people who share your experience, that you're representative of where you've come from.
I guess the major difficulty I had was a difficulty in presenting yourself, or what you say to the US students or to other people here does not just represent your point of view. It sort of, as a whole, represents your country and your background. So I had my guard up. I did not want to do anything wrong, or I did not want to do anything that would misrepresent my country or my background. And as a result, I never used to interact a lot with any of my US peers.
It's interesting the kind of pressure that can put on you, because I am so proud of my country, and I am so proud of its diversity, that it's very difficult for me to always bear in mind that everything that I say and everything that I do, in a sense, represents this island with many different people called Trinidad and Tobago. So if I have a habit of talking a lot with my hands, it makes sense that an American would think, yeah, Trinidadians talk a lot with their hands. Not Michaela talks a lot with her hands, but Trinidadians talk a lot with their hands.
If you ask me whether I'm representing my culture, I would say in some ways yes, but that culture itself is very amorphous, and in some ways it's still being defined, and that I'm not so much representing my culture as I am in the process of shaping it and defining it for the future.
There might be a lot of other Indians here, and there might be a lot of other Singaporeans, but just because I'm Indian and I grew up in Singapore made me different, and I'm representing that. I'm representing a mix of both.
There's a challenge here, just like I said, being an ambassador, like you have to sort of live to some expectations, and even though you might not know it, there are all these other people who are watching you.
I feel like this is my responsibility to know what is happening in my country, and to be able to tell others what is the situation of Poland right now.
I really appreciate sometimes if the American student could remember that in the same way that they too are trying new things and doing different things which may not be characteristic of where they have come from and the experience they have had, so too are we. So everything that I do does not necessarily define what it means to be a Trinidadian. There's an issue that is definitely one which international students face probably from they arrive as freshmen until they leave as seniors, of how much exactly do I want to stand out and how much exactly do I want to fit in.
When you come to a new place, there's some part of you tells you that you really want to fit in, and so that means in some way maybe giving up some of your individuality.
It becomes really difficult because there are some things that I really don't feel like dropping about myself.
Before long I was saying what's up and how you doing, and even my accent, underwent some modulation.
It sort of puts me out of place, out of touch with my own culture, and that's definitely one big challenge.
I would say, be yourself. Americans appreciate your individuality, and attempting to be something other than yourself is a turn-off, regardless of what sort of culture you're in.
Don't play down your differences. Don't find that necessary to play down your differences, because the reason you're different is the reason people want to come and meet you. It's not if you were the same as everybody, would they want to meet you. And your background is exclusive for you, and you should treasure it.
There's certain things that you'd have to sort of leave, others good to take up, and try to find just some balance. I'm not saying, just be like, whatever, I'm not going to take anything that's American. stick to my own ways, or like, I'm gonna change, from my ways and just be uprooted and take all the American things. I don't think that'd be good. Always try to find a blend. That's good.
I think it's important that international students don't feel so wary of being rejected or being perceived as frontish because they want you to know a little bit about where they come from.
Each culture, each way of life attempts to solve common human problems. Death, love, money, education,
If there's one thing I have taken on as my personal goal, it is to educate people directly and indirectly about the fact that I can represent a group of people, or I can tell you about a group of people who think differently on certain issues. You may not want to hear it, but know that these people, know that the way you feel about X issue and the way that the group of, the region that you come from feels about certain issues is at odds with the way that other people feel. There are other people who exist in this world, and they have opinions too.